think a little bit before that.
I was Messenger. I was on
Yeah, I
AIM.
had AOL Instant Messenger. Yeah, when I was a kid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
crazy.
I was
Um,
macking on chicks on AOL Instant Messenger.
Dude, just slinging
all
it.
day,
You're
every
just
day.
slinging
Dial
it,
up.
bro.
Dial up internet.
The
Just
worst.
Let's get
waiting for that.
let's get into some of what your thoughts are. Alternative meetings on entering dream worlds. What are some of the
Okay.
alternative meetings?
Okay, so I think I have seen people, and I've entered other dimensions, and I've seen like some dark shit. I'm very I follow Jesus Christ. I've come back to that because yeah, I believe I've seen Jesus, with my own like eyes like closed, and a lot of that like spiritual awakening for me came from, I mean, first it was like drugs, and then I started seeing some like organized evil. Like I was like, down in like Dallas, in a big city, where I was seeing some like really dark shit and people practicing psychedelics to basically enter, I believe, other like realms. So DMT is I mean, you guys know about DMT, and I remember whenever I first heard about it like years ago, I like wanted to try it in like high school. I wanted to try it because I was told it was the dream drug, and it sounded really cool. And then the first time I was around it, this guy, this really like Wookiee guy, like tripper guy, he was like, I'm gonna get some. He was like, you're gonna blast off to another dimension, you're gonna like see entities. And I'm like, no, no. Okay, I start like reeling it back in, like, hold on, I am not about to. And he's like telling me this, how like all people like have like different similar experiences with DMT, where they like have blasted off and seen like the same entities, but there are like different places that people have gone. And he's like, you're gonna blast off, and there's gonna be two people calling you, go to them. And I'm like, no. And he's like, you're gonna be falling through space into a crowd of people and love and beings. And I'm like, hell no. So I hit it one time, and I remember it like going around, and then I call it the waiting room, or I used to call it the waiting room. Now I call it the boardroom, where you like hit it at once and it like locks in. It's almost like really good, like mushrooms or something. And you're like in this plane, everybody's like there. And I used to call it the waiting room, but like that is the space that I think people are manipulating with DMT. So I knew someone down in Dallas, and I would never like blast off on DMT, because every time it was around, the people there seemed like they were like curating the whole experience. Like they were like dressing up the room and, like playing like their certain music. And I like got like a weird feeling, like, where are they about to like take me? And so this one guy, he would smoke DMT all the time, like out of like a freaking bong, like just like,
yeah, they have those DMT pens now. I'm like, is this good that
no,
we
like,
have drugs this available like this, where you can just hit a robot dick, just hit it, and then you're smoking DMT?
and then you're blasting off to another freaking dimension. Like,
it seems like such a dumb idea.
yeah. So like this guy, he would smoke it out of a bong. Like he would do it all the time. Like, and I was at his house, and I'm with like these like rappers, like these like black dudes who had never smoked DMT. And so
oh my God, you did DMT with black people? That must have been great.
Well, no, so we all hit it like once, and then it like you like lock into the room, and everybody, and then like this guy who was like hosting the thing, he like rips it. He's like, look at this, rips it out of the bong, like, and he's like this. And like falls back onto the like beanbag chair, and like they're all like looking at me like, the fuck. And I'm like, it's cool, he does this, and then all of a sudden the music changes, and it's like coochie 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 coochie, and all these black dudes are like, the fuck. And I'm like, yeah, I have a coochie. Like literally it was happening, like he like,
hold on, you were yelling coochie?
No, the music changed.
So
like
crazy.
He like, and it was the space. So it was like this uncanny, like wild shit. And so then I'm like in Portland, and I've entered this dimension again.
Oh, this is a different trip, or in your trip you go to Portland?
No, and this is a different time, and I entered the same dimension
Hold
that I
on,
was
stop.
in.
I want to
Yeah.
hear about DMT with black people. Did they hit it?
Okay.
Did they hit the pen?
They only hit it once, bro, because they saw that guy rip it and fucking pass
So the
out
black
onto the
guys did
beanbag.
not.
Well, they hit it once,
You
And
don't you
did
don't
they
get
but
there. You
whenever
triple?
don't
you
get
hit
there,
it,
right? If you have to go 3 times, right, to get there
yeah,
with
you have to hit
DMT,
it
right?
like 2 or 3 times, and then you blast off. You know,
And you couldn't
and
convince them to do it?
I wasn't convincing him. The guy who lived there was like the DMT like wielder, and he was like always trying to get people to smoke DMT at his house and like blast off and like go wherever he was intending
So weird, bro.
them to go.
So weird.
Like it's some
so
like
crazy.
yeah, it's some
Hmm.
like wookery, like almost like witchcraft shit. But because like I was in Portland a separate time and I ate these mushrooms and I'm at this bar with these guys I didn't know and we're like gonna go to a show and they're like, no, I don't think we're gonna go. And I'm like, wait, no, let's go. And the music starts changing and it's like this gangsta rap, ironically. And I was like, is that me? And I was like, start like pushing it and it's like getting louder. And then like the little ringleader, the dude's like sits up and he's like, y'all should go smoke a cigarette. And the guy who gave me the mushrooms is like, yeah, come on, let's go. Like, and we like go smoke a cigarette. And it was like this whole thing, but I recognized the space I was in. It was like the same dimension plane that I was in whenever I was like in Dallas another time and smoked it, like you like zap into this like plane that's here, but it's like slightly different.
So interesting.
I've heard at least once, I can't remember, maybe twice, of people. Well, one of the themes of these DMT trips, especially among people who go more than once, is that eventually they get to a point where they're told, "Hey, man, too much. Don't come back here.
Yeah.
You're not meant to be here, especially not
Hold
this
on.
much."
What? So
Yeah,
like the elves
that's
are like, get your ass out of here?
yeah, I've heard that many times. But I'm saying that to
What?
say this. I've also heard of people who've had near death experiences say that that's the same space where they end up, and one guy in particular, I can't remember where I saw this. He encountered the same entity in his near death experience as he does when he took DMT. And when he took DMT, he was like, "Hey man, you're not supposed to be back here." Same
What?
thing got told to him, yeah, during his
shit.
ND and during the DMT trip, which is fascinating. So
Yeah.
I think it's some liminal space that
Yeah. So
that you access.
I think that there are like different entities, and that's why I like wrote down earlier. You talked about your friend with the meth seeing like entities, and I think that there are like different realms, so to speak, that people have entered on DMT. And like, because I heard a story about, or I knew a guy, and he didn't tell me the story, but somebody else told me because he wouldn't talk about it. He like smoked DMT, and he went to this like space where he saw this like Oz like face like and it was like, you don't know what you're doing, something, and he got like freaked out and like was like terrified of like and quit like doing drugs and stuff, but it like he thought it was like more like demonic. But then there are people who see these like like this like it's weird because like Wizard of Oz, like all the different like realms that I've heard, they remind me of like either like Munchkin Land or like of like Oz or like the Flying Monkeys or so there's like movies and there's cinema and stuff that has tapped or gotten ideas from I think a lot of
Oh
these
yeah,
spaces.
for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well the one guy, another in multiple near death experience, people who've had near death experiences describe the beings that they encounter as the almost identical to it's this movie from the 80s with those, it's like a horror movie. Is it The Commune or do you know what I'm talking? Fuck,
I
can't
don't
remember.
know.
80s horror. Hold on.
Yeah, and like, well, with like the
What are these things
methods, like I think like the like shadow people and stuff like that. I think that these are all, places you could go on DMT. But like I said, I've smoked DMT quite a few times, but I've only like blasted off once because every other time I quit hitting it after once because I realized and I saw these creatures, like the person like hosting the event creeping around setting up the stage, like where they're gonna like take me, you know? And so like the one time I did blast off though, I was in like a hallway full of doors, and it was like a turquoise, like tall, like old, like I could draw a picture of it. And I've had one other friend who actually went to that house with like all the DMT wielder, and literally it was his 30th birthday. He comes in, he sits down, and the guy grabs him and gives him the bong, and he rips it with the DMT before. And I'm like, you know, like, and at that point, I'm like, don't say anything. Like, he's going to freak out. Like, he's about to be gone. And like, he like blasts off, and he was in a hallway full of doors, and he walked through a door, and he saw his grandfather who had passed away. And he was wearing his grandfather's hat. And like, the guy was like, I think trying to manipulate where he went, but he went to the hallway full of doors where you can choose anywhere you go. And he was like in his grandfather's hat, and his grandfather who passed away was there. And he's like, his dad's a doctor. He's not into all that. And he's like told his whole family about it. It was like super spiritual.
That's interesting, because that goes back to a dark matter, right? A hallway full of doors.
Oh, is that in that show?
Oh yeah, 100%. And it's so crazy because last night I was doing a deep conspiracy rewind on my premium content, which is available at samtripoli.com. And they were talking about when Jeff, like the whole story, Jeff Bezos is like Paul Bunyan bullshit, right? And I'm here to tell you I got wrong. His dad did not, his grandpa didn't own Mobil Oil. He worked in an energy business, and he did help create DARPA, but that was his grandpa. But when he was a kid, he was like super young. He was talking about an infinite cube. And it was basically the cube from dark matter, Johnny, where like you would walk in, and it was it was a hallway that just went forever with infinite possibilities.
Like in superposition, basically.
Yeah, like just like the cube, the black cube on the show.
Well, that's what I felt like after I saw that hallway full of doors. Like, instinctively, I was like, I knew I could go through any door and go anywhere. And like, and I didn't like go deeper into it because, I mean, I'll be honest, we didn't have like a lot. It was like a really like chill thing. But every other time I've like been around DMT, I've gotten a really bad feeling that I should not hit it again around like the people that I was around. Like, I mean, I think, and especially if you are like a vivid dreamer, like I've always felt like because I have such vivid dreams that I can access all of that in my sleep, you know, if I wanted to. So if I like, you know, what did the guy say the first time? He said, don't be overwhelmed by astonishment. And I was like, well, I might be, you know, like I might be like a little too excited. Like I'm going to be like I met this guy at an after hour party one time, and he said he tripped DMT for 60 years. He goes, I had a family. I miss my baby girl. And he was like trying to get back there. And I was like, I don't think, you know, like you're going to get back there.
That's dark matter right there too.
Didn't Ari Shaffir feel like he lived the whole life?
Yeah. What was the drug?
Yeah, that was salvia. He was on salvia. Yeah,
he
had a whole life in the pond or a little puddle or something in his
just like
the backyard of his family home that he grew up in.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
And the film was Communion, 1989 Communion. The beings in that film apparently look like the beings that people encounter in near-death experiences and while on DMT.
One of my
if you want to look that up.
One of my best friends out there, he would constantly be doing ayahuasca trips. And he would just talk. I think he told me one time, he was like, you know, it's like I tripped so hard and I saw like what he thought was the Antichrist. And then he turned out it was Abraxas, the chicken snake god that he saw. And it really freaked him the fuck out because he didn't know what it was until he heard us talking about it. And he's like, oh, wow. I saw that guy on. And so my whole thing is psychedelically, you have to really watch yourself. Because you don't know what you're letting in. You know what I'm saying?
That's why it's really good you just said that about like the Antichrist, because that's kind of where I like wanted all this to end up, is that like I have it like entered other dimensions, like listening to gospel music. So like I think that like the spiritual realms, like seeing like entities, like, you know, we talk about like fallen angels, shit like that, you know, I think that there is like one God, and there is like there are archetypes, or like to me, like there is like Jesus Christ, who represents one like archetype of God, you know. And so like I've literally been listening to gospel music and been like just torn apart, like mad at myself about something, like just like closed my eyes and like entered the room. Like I swear it was Maverick City music. Like they do like these circle worship revivals. And I was like, closed my eyes, like listening to it. And the song kept going on. And I was in the room, like straight up. And like literally the song, like just kept going and going and going. It wasn't ending. And then I like pull out to like Google how like Chandler Moore's birthday, one of the singers, and then it like just exited out all of it, and then I was like, you know, out of it. But like I think that is like, you know, people who like go like worship circles, and even like, you know, people in like Pentecostal churches and stuff all speaking in tongues. I think that those are similar spaces that people who pray and like, you know, like pray for hours and hours on the day, like, you know, look at like the prophets in the Bible. They were like doing the same thing, but they were doing it naturally, so to speak, for what we know, but like through prayer.